for sure. There's lifelong bonds built there. It's sad. Yeah, it's memories this team will cherish forever.
2 days after the Indiana Fever's dramatic playoff exit, Kelsey Mitchell sat down to reflect, not just on basketball, but on her body, her health, and the surreal experience of pushing herself beyond human limits. She looked calm, grateful even, though her voice still carried the tremor of what she had endured. When asked how she was feeling, she paused before answering, a mixture of humor and honesty coloring her tone. "I feel fine," she said. "As far as I don't think I could play in a real game for another. I mean, realistically, I would hope none of it's over. I could just take some rest, but I probably should take some time to kind of reset." That word, reset, seemed to carry extra weight. For Kelsey, this wasn't just about a physical break. It was about the shock of realizing how far her body had been pushed. "I lost a lot of fluid," she explained softly. "And in that experience alone, I kind of just felt scared because for a while I couldn't. My legs were so numb, so paralyzed, I couldn't feel my feet. It was a terrifying moment. A playoff elimination game, a national spotlight, and then her body, her most trusted tool, suddenly shutting down. I think it just happened from overusage," she continued. "If I'm honest, I never played that long. I never made it to a postseason. And then, being there for my team, I never thought about anything like that happening. I don't even know how random it was to have something like rhabdo in a Game 5. But that's another conversation for another day." She gave a small, ironic smile at that last sentence, as if to acknowledge that her career had just crossed an unimaginable chapter. Yet, through all of it, she held on to gratitude. "At the time I panicked," she admitted. "But when it was all said and done, I was grateful that it wasn't something worse. I could have been sick in other ways. I could have been hurt worse. So I was grateful too." For Kelsey, the body was more than muscle and motion. It was a vessel of her will, and now a teacher. "I think I just need a little time. A little reset button. We all could use that," she said. "And then make sure that my body is in the flow it needs to be competitive at an elite level." Her voice carried both maturity and fatigue. She wasn't making excuses. She was making sense of what had happened to her, the way only someone who's lived inside pressure can. When asked what might have caused it, she didn't flinch. "I don't know," she said with a laugh. "I don't blame Steph for all that practicing." Then, more seriously, "You're a professional. You do what you have to do. You commit to the work. There's no complaining about it. I think it just kind of happened that way. But for me, it was also a learning lesson, to figure out where my body needs to be at a playoff level and to maintain that. That was a learning area for me. I'm still maturing in knowing what my body needs and what it doesn't." Those words, learning, maturing, maintaining, defined this chapter of her story. When reporters asked if she needed to be cautious moving forward, she shook her head. "No, not really," she said. "When I got done with the Vegas doctors and our doctors, they said it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Nobody thought rhabdo. In Game 5 of all times. So, for me, it's just about knowing what my body needs. And honestly, I wouldn't change anything." That line caught everyone's attention. "I wouldn't have changed anything I've done," she repeated. "Any practice, any work, it was worth it. I guess I played literally till my wheels fell off, like I told you guys. I wouldn't trade it. It was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and I'd trade my body in every time." The room went silent for a moment. In those words was the essence of who Kelsey Mitchell had always been. Relentless, loyal, and impossibly tough. When she talked about that moment, when she went down on the court, her body frozen, her mind racing, the fear in her recollection was still fresh. "It was scary," she said. "You're trying to figure out what's going on, and then you can't even be out there with your team. I just cried a lot. When we all reconnected, did pictures and everything, It was emotional. You spend 5 or 6 months with this group, living life together, and suddenly you can't finish with them. Her teammates' faces flashed through her memory, each one playing a role in helping her stay grounded. When I was on the floor, I remember Aaliyah Boston praying over me, Kelsey recalled. Lexi Hull was holding my hand. Brianna Turner was making sure my legs were okay. She kept telling me, Kels, they're going to move eventually. That love, that radiation of care, it was powerful. I go to war with those girls any day. She smiled, thinking of the team's resilience in finishing that Game 5 without her. I feel grateful that the girls finished the game, she said. Shout out to Odyssey Sims for being a competitor. Shout out to Lexi for finishing strong. TSH for making sure people knew our name. They did an unbelievable job. Kelsey's story, in many ways, became bigger than a single playoff game. It became a story about sisterhood and survival. As reporters continued, one asked whether she'd noticed early signs of her condition, or if she had mistaken them for normal fatigue. She nodded slowly. I think back to it, she said, and honestly, it was that time of the month. I thought it was just cramps for a while. Then I felt like my stomach dropped to my legs. You have to remember, I had just hit a 3. She laughed, shaking her head. And then my body just locked. I couldn't move. When I fell on Isaac, I felt bad. Like maybe he didn't even know what was happening. But it was just unbelievable. Looking back, I think fatigue had already settled in. We just played Game 4, then traveled right into Game 5. I did all the proper treatments, everything I normally do. But sometimes life just happens. That statement captured the bittersweet truth of professional sports. Preparation doesn't always protect you. When a reporter mentioned that she had refused the stretcher after collapsing, Kelsey's trademark humor lit up again. Heck yeah, she said with a grin. We're not doing a stretcher, man. Walking out on a stretcher? Not happening. The room burst into light laughter, but she meant it. I told them, just get me off the floor so they can finish the game. My feet were dangling, no blood flow, no movement. But being carried off was an act of God, really. I wasn't about to be seen leaving on a stretcher. I wanted to walk out, even if I couldn't. That unyielding pride, that refusal to be seen as weak, is part of what makes Kelsey Mitchell the heartbeat of Indiana. I just told myself, you're going to figure it out, she said. You're going to get up without that stretcher. And eventually, she did. When my toes started moving, she remembered, I knew I'd be okay. In the huddle, I was still numb, but once my feet started wiggling, I was like, all right. Papa Todd, our trainer, Todd Champlin, he kept me calm. He told me, your legs will move again. You just need blood flow. Hearing that, it helped me get through it. Kelsey Mitchell's words carried no bitterness, no self-pity, only reflection. The near trauma had given her new perspective on her limits, her team, and the invisible line between strength and survival. And this was only the beginning of her reflection. The next part of her story, her evolution as a leader, her relationship with her team, and how this moment shaped her mindset. After the shock of her health scare began to fade, Kelsey Mitchell found herself replaying not the pain, but the pride. She had survived something terrifying, and yet what lingered most was what the Fever had built together. How they refused to crumble even when their leader was carried off the floor. You know, Pat, she said softly, not a lot of people even expected us to be here. And I think that within itself is a lot to be proud of for our group. There was power in that understatement. For years, Indiana had been fighting uphill, searching for belief, identity, and rhythm. In 2025, they found it, and much of it flowed through the quiet steadiness of Kelsey Mitchell. We handled a lot of adversity, she continued. Losing CC was huge for everybody. That was a shift. People had to adjust, transform their games to make sure it fit for everyone. The injuries, the team camaraderie, bringing people in and out. That was big. It's hard to find culture. Hard to establish that when you're trying to make a run. We could have folded, but we didn't. We didn't tuck our tail. We didn't complain. Her words carried the pride of a veteran who had seen both the pain of losing and the beauty of growth. She had become the Fever's emotional compass, steering them through noise, scrutiny, and expectations that came with the Caitlin Clark era. I kind of made it an effort as a leader, in my own way, to not complain about it. Just do the work, she said. Nothing's going to be given to us. Being a Fever the last couple of years, there's been more eyes than ever. And a lot of people may not like the Fever. So you just have to be mindful and grateful. It could have been worse. That humility defined her leadership. The Fever didn't just survive a season. They built a foundation out of chaos. When reporters asked how she herself had grown during an MVP finalist season, her eyes brightened. I think the part one grew the most at, she began, was learning to take risks. I got to watch Tyrese Halliburton, Jalen Brunson, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander up close in the NBA playoffs. What I took from them was the way they took risk. As a guard, you have to allow your game to be your game. Trust it. Take a risk while doing it. For me, that was big. Trusting myself, trusting my confidence. I had played the two for a while, but when TC went out, I shifted. I had to handle more, and I didn't want to lose who I was. She leaned forward, explaining the subtle art that separates good from great in her position. You have to take risk and trust that it's for yourself and your team. It's not about anybody else. That was a leadership shift for me. Earlier in my career, I didn't realize how much you have to bet on yourself every possession. The more experience I got, the more I realized, yeah, I gotta take more risks. That's how you grow. It was the confession of a player stepping fully into her prime. Aware, analytical, fearless. When a reporter asked if she'd watched the end of Game 5 from the hospital, she smiled, her eyes glassy. A little bit, she said. I was in the back with an 4 drip and a thing in my nose. I was watching, smiling when we did great stuff, shedding a tear when things didn't go our way. I was a wreck, but it was worth it. I was so proud of our group. So much was happening, and nobody really knew what was going on. I was proud that we finished. That scene, Kelsey in a hospital bed, still emotionally tied to every possession, was the essence of her devotion. Later, the conversation shifted toward her future. Free agency loomed, and uncertainty hung over the entire league. I hope we've got a league, she said with a wry half-smile. That's where it starts. I hope that when it's all said and done, we can have a season for all the girls, for everyone who wants to be in the W. But then her tone softened, turning inward. Individually, I'm going to take my time, she said. Figure out what my family needs. Losing a parent, it changes everything. I take into consideration how my mom feels now, my siblings, my dad's mom, my grandmother. She's still alive, and that's big for me. Family is everything. So I'll talk to them, figure out what's best for us, for me internally. That's always going to be important. Her honesty was disarming. Rare vulnerability from a player known for her toughness. I'll say this to the Indiana Fever, she added, her voice steady. 8 years. It's going to be a lot to talk about. I have so much love and aspiration for this place. The growth I've had here, I don't think any other place could have been greater for me. When the time's right, the right conversations will be had. Indy is like my second family. It wasn't a farewell. It was a promise wrapped in reflection. She wasn't running from Indiana. She was simply taking a breath before whatever came next. When a final question pointed out that head coach Christy Sides and GM Lynn Dunn had already said she would be their top priority, Kelsey smiled knowingly. Man, she said, laughing softly. Some of it I don't have control over. I'll leave that to Steph, Amber, and those guys. But to every person that contributed, whatever team that was at the beginning, middle, or end, I'd like to think our culture was so big and great that everybody will have somewhere to be themselves based on what we built this year. It wasn't just loyalty. It was legacy. We put ourselves in position to be in conversation for what we all need individually, she continued. To every